Okay, so we're going to do the integral of 1 over 1 minus cosine of x. So, I'm going to give it away right away. You're going to have to multiply by the conjugate. So the conjugate, if you remember, is when you have the opposite of whatever operand you have here. If it's subtraction, you do addition, and you multiply top and bottom by it. So you're essentially just multiplying by 1. You're not really changing anything. So that's what we do here. We multiply by the conjugate. 1 plus cosine of x over 1 minus cosine squared of x. I kind of skipped a step here, but when you multiply 1 minus cosine of x times 1 plus cosine of x, you get 1 minus cosine squared of x, because a positive cosine cancels with the negative cosine. Now, you could split the fraction, because you're adding two separate things. Whenever you're adding or subtracting, you could split the fraction if the addition or subtraction is occurring in the numerator. You can't do it if it's just in the denominator. You also can't do it if there's multiplication. But in this case, it's addition and in the numerator. So we can split it like this. Like this. Plus cosine of x. 1 minus cosine squared of x dx. Now we could have done this in the previous step, or we can notice it now, that 1 minus cosine squared of x is the same thing as sine squared of x. This is just sine squared of x. Cosine of x over sine squared of x. What does this give you? Remember that if you have the inverse of sine squared of, not the inverse, but the reciprocal, it's actually just cosecant squared of x. And what do we do with this one? Well, you could also change it to like cosecants and stuff, but it might be better to just do u sub to solve for this one. So on this side, we let u equals, you could let it equal cosine or you could let it equal sine. But it's probably better to let it equal sine, I would say. Far better. Actually, yeah, because it's in a denominator. It's in a denominator and it's being squared. You should definitely do u equals sine of x. That means the derivative equals cosine of x dx. So now we can back substitute this. This is du over 1 over u squared. This one is already solved, pretty much. This is just something that you have to remember, that the integral of cosecant squared of x happens to be negative cotangent of x. This is negative cotangent of x. For this one, we have, this is to the power of negative 2, so we add 1 to the negative 2, that gives you a negative 1, divide by that, so it gives you negative u to the negative 1, which could also be written as negative 1 over u. U is sine of x. So 1 over sine of x plus c. This is your final answer.